Hello and welcome to the Ciao Flower Shop mini album tutorial series designed for scrap and create. If you are just joining the tutorial series, don't forget to check out the links in the description box below where you will find the links for all of the papers and the other supplies that I am using from the Scrap and Create website to create this album. Let's get into the tutorial. In today's tutorial, we are going to be working on decorating our cover. I'm going to start with the inside front page, I'll move to the back page, and then we'll come to the outside cover and decorate it. I'm starting with this 12 by 12 paper here, and I've cut one strip to 3 inches by 8 1/4 inches. Now this piece I'm going to be placing here, leaving a little tiny bit of a gap where that crease is. Then I'm going to place my paper here. I'm going to add adhesive to the top and bottom of this flap and close it to form a pocket. Then I have a leftover piece from this strip here. This was right here, and I've cut this to 5/8 by 8 inches. I'm going to be placing this here, right beside this pocket. Next, I'm going to add a length of ribbon down here to the bottom of my page. I've got about 8 inches here that I'm going to place just in the center of this pocket. And then I have a piece of this paper here. It was the leftover piece from the 12 by 12 paper. I did end up having to cut it this way, so I've cut 2 pieces. 3 inches by 5 1/4. It's going to go here. And then this one is 3 inches by 3 1/4, and it's going to go here. Next, I have a piece of cardstock that's about 2 3/4 by 4 1/8 of an inch. And I have this piece here. I believe this is from the A4 paper. I'm going to place this here on the center of my piece. Then I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to place my 8 inches of ribbon hanging off the bottom of this piece here on the back side. Next, I have a piece of this paper. It's the leftover part of this. This is 1 1/4 inches, and I've trimmed this to be about 2 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to place it here covering the end of my ribbon. So this piece is going to look like that. Now, once this piece is finished, I'm going to attach it here. And I am only going to have about 1 inch of my paper extended below the bottom edge of the flap. And I'm going to make this into a pocket. So I'm going to take where the wagon, kind of like the wagon axle is, that's where I'm going to be placing my adhesive across my page. So it's basically right where that paper ends, and then I'm going to take some adhesive up the sides as well. And then I'm going to be placing this here and centering it on the upper flap. And then I'll adhere this down. So then when this opens, it'll be covered on the portion that you see, and then we're going to have a little pocket back here to tuck another little tag behind. I have from this paper here that I cut the strip, I've cut another piece. This measures 3 inches by 5 1/4. I'm going to place it here. And then I have one of these little cut apart pieces. I believe it's from the A4 paper. I'm not sure though, because everything is cut apart at this point. Now I'm going to adhere this, I hope this is in camera, I'll make sure that's in frame. I'm going to adhere this up here, and I'm going to adhere it actually to this peach colored paper and leave the green part open so the photo can tuck behind it. And then from my 8 by 8 paper, it's the same one as this. I'm pretty sure, I don't think it's the A4 paper, but I had a scrap piece of this, so I think it's the 8 by 8. And this measures 3 inches by 5 inches. Now I'm going to take this and tuck it slightly down into that pocket, and I'm going to place it so that it is right up against that score line. Now I did go ahead and tie this page closed for now. I'll come back later and add my inserts in my final video. I am going to add this little tiny tag though. I put the little bird charm from Scrap and Crate in the top, and I've inked my edges. It can be used as a journaling card or as a tiny photo mat. And I'm just going to tuck that down here into this pocket at the top and leave it extended. Now I'm going to flip all of these pages over to the back of the album, and we're going to go ahead and start working on these two flaps. I've cut another piece from this paper here. It is 3 1/4 by 8 inches. I'm going to be placing this here on the front of this flap. Next, I have this piece from the A4. I'm going to back this onto cardstock, and then I'm going to fussy cut around this. Now, once I have my piece fussy cut, I'm going to just set it here in the center of the page so that the edge of this flap bisects the center of my piece. And I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to take a magnet and press it here so that it is about 1 1/4 inches from the left edge. Now I'm going to take this piece of leftover paper. I'm going to adhere it down here, making sure that I cover this a little bit more than halfway so that it's completely covered on the back side. And then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut around this piece. Now I did go ahead and center this piece. I'm going to show you how to put it on in case you're not really sure. So once I had it centered on the page, I took my pencil and I very lightly just drew around this edge of this piece, and I'm going to take this piece off, and now I'm just going to apply my adhesive in this area on just this section. And all I have to do now is just line up my piece, and I push it just a little teeny hair over the line so you can't actually see the lines anymore. And now my piece is on my flap here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my second magnet, attach it to the back. Then I'm going to close my flap to place that magnet here in the correct position. And now I have this piece, it's left over from the 8 by 8 papers. I did go ahead and cut this to 3 3/4 by 8 inches, and I'm just going to place this right over top of here to cover that magnet. I believe this is a sheet from the A4. It may be from the 12 by 12, but it looks like this. I'm going to use this piece, and it measures 3 inches by 8 1/4 inches. I'm going to place it here, and then I'm going to take this flap and apply my adhesive to the top and the bottom and close this to form a pocket. And then from my 12 by 12 paper like this, I've cut a piece to 3 1/4 by 8 inches, and I'm going to place it here to cover this flap. Now that these are covered, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Then I'm going to flip all of my pages over and come in here. And next we're going to work on building the outside cover. I'm going to be using this 12 by 12 paper here. From the back side, I have cut one strip across this way, so it was 12 inches by 8 1/4 inches. Then I've cut this to 6 3/4 inches. Now this, I'm going to flip over, and I'm using my punch because it is still not laying flat, and I want this to be flat whenever I do this. So my 6 3/4 inch piece that I've cut first is going to go here on the back side. Next, I cut a piece that's 2 3/8 of an inch by 8 1/4. It's going to go here on my spine section, but I've also cut this. This is from the 8 by 8 paper pad. It was on a card, and I fussy cut around it. I'm going to be placing this in the center of my spine piece, and I'm going to do this before I put it on my paper just because, or on my album, just because it's going to be a little bit harder to put things on since I've already added my pages in. It'll be easier to put this on and then just adhere that one piece down. Now I have all of my pieces on, and I've got one more piece of this paper. It's 1 1/4 by 8 1/4. I'm going to be placing this here on the left side of my cover. Now I flipped over back to the back side of the album, taking this 12 by 12 paper here. You can pick whichever strip you want and whichever part of the strip you like, but I'm going to be using this top corner. So I've cut this to 6 3/4 inches, and I've cut it just past that little banner piece that has the tulips, roses, peonies on it. So I think it's almost 4 inches, so it's about 3 7/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to be placing this here in the center of my album cover. If you want to add a ribbon closure to your album, now will be the time to do so. So you want to cut some ribbon and place the end here, and then we'll add another length to the front if you choose to do so. I'm not going to be doing a ribbon closure on this album, so I'm just going to be putting my paper down here. Now I've got the back finished. I'm going to flip over to the front. I'm going to add this to keep my book flat. Again, if you are doing a ribbon closure, you want to add your second ribbon here now before we finish the front cover. Now I have cut this piece, I believe it was from this front section of the paper pad, but honestly I can't remember. I cut it and I sat it down and I forgot because everything's just so mixed up right now. But I've saved this image for my front cover. There's another image that you could change this out for, I think, if you wanted to, but I'm going to be using this one. I did trim this down, so I cut it to the length that it is. So it is 6 inches wide, and then I've cut this to 8 1/4 inches. Starting with the bottom, I cut this just at the edge of the butterfly, and I cut a little teeny tiny bit off the top. So I'm going to be taking this piece and adhering it right down to the right side of my page here. It's going to overlap the plaid paper just slightly, and then it's going to give me that nice, clean, uniform white border around the whole front cover. Now I'm going to start building up my front cover with my flowers. So I'm starting with these 2 stems here, and I'm just going to be adhering these back sides, so just placing some adhesive down first, and then they're not going to meet in the middle, they'll be pretty close, but these are going to go right to the ends of the album. Now it will take a little bit of time for these to dry, so I'm just going to hold these down until they do adhere, and then I will add the rest of my flowers next. I'm going to start with my flower. This one's a little bit more, I think it's a little bit larger, a little bit more crinkly, a little different flower than the other 2 larger ones. So I'm just going to start with it first. It's going to go in the center. So I'll be placing my adhesive there and then placing this right down in the center of my album. And then I'm going to take each of these other 2 larger flowers. I've set the third one of these aside. I'm going to place one here, and then I'll place this second one just below this middle one, filling in that spot. And then I'm going to take these 2 little tiny flowers and I'm going to apply my adhesive there. This one I'm going to place down here. And then the second one I'm going to place at the top right here. Now for these ones, I'm going to trim the little curly pieces off And for this, I'm going to apply just a little bit of adhesive to the bud and then some to the stem. Taking the first one, I'm going to place it right in here. And then for this second one, I'm going to place it up in here. And now I'm just going to press down on all of these to make sure that they are firmly attached to my cover and let them dry. As those flowers are drying, I'm going to take my 2 small metal corner pieces that came with my charms from Scrap and Create, and I am going to adhere these to the corners over here. And I'm going to adhere them just slightly in, but not completely over top of the decorative paper either. So it's going to be mostly on the white cardstock. I'm going to adhere the second one on the top corner. So this is it for this part of the tutorial. I am done with my cover. I'm going to just let everything dry before I move on to the next part. There will be one more part for the tutorial where I'm going to go inside and finish up making a couple of photo mats. We'll make the photo mats for the pockets. I forgot to make a photo mat, I think for page 2 or page 3, so I'll make that. And then I'll make some photo mats for the inside, front, and back covers as well. So if you're just joining the tutorial series, don't forget to click on the links in the description box below where you can find all of the Ciao Bella Flower Shop papers that are available from the Scrap and Create website. I'll see you in the next tutorial.